That's why you have Valley at your number one.
That's why I have Valley at my number one, because Kendrick Wade is trying to turn the culture around. That's a tough way in year 2 to try to turn the culture around, having to go on the road and take on those teams. Since we started at number one, let's go to number 2. Let's go to Florida A&M. Let's look at Florida A&M's schedule, and that's why I have them at number 2.
All righty. Here we go.
Florida A&M starting the season with Norfolk State. I just think the MEAC SWAC Challenge, considering where they are right now, could be a tough game. It's a tough game for anybody to start the season with a national spotlight. But then you move on, South Carolina State with Chennis Berry. That's, as many think, is going to be a different South Carolina State in terms of the toughness and the tenacity of their program. Then you got to go on the road to take on Miami. Now, Miami in the eyes of the FBS world may not be the Miami that we remember as the U back in the day. But nonetheless, for Florida A&M, that's a tough out. Then to take on Troy, a team that a lot of Florida A&M people remember during their FCS or Division I AA days of having to play in the playoffs. That is a tough outing. All right, as you continue to go, you look at Florida A&M has to go on the road to Alabama State. That is going to be a tough game, having to go on the road to Alabama State. So going on the road to Miami, going on the road to Troy, going on the road to Alabama State, and then the week after, then you look at right after Alabama State, having to go on the road to Jackson, Mississippi, to Jackson State. For me, that's why I put them at the number 2 spot. I just think, especially trying to reclaim their title as the SWAC East Division champions, having to go on the road on 2 teams who have you circled in Alabama State and Florida A&M, along with Miami and Troy, that's a tough outing.
I'll give you that. Mm-hmm. You on NCCU next?
NCCU, let's look at them, because, of course, we've heard Coach Trey Oliver at MEAC Media Day, Football Media Day, saying, you know, where's the respect to us when we go on the road and have to play PWIs, and we have beaten PWIs? They have a tough game down at the Orange Blossom Classic to start the season off against Eddie Robinson Jr. and Alabama State. To me, that is tough. Elon, a team that they got past last year, Elon is coming to town this year. Elon is a top 25 team coming into this season. That's going to be a tough game dealing with Elon, a PWI and FCS top 25 team. Then the next, you go on, then you take it on North Carolina, the Battle of the Carolinas, which is tough. And then after that, you got a rivalry game.
Yep.
With North Carolina A&T, who is then trying to find themselves. And then, of course, you get into conference play with North Carolina Central and Norfolk State. Then Campbell. We have all seen Campbell dibble and dabble around the HBCU community. That Campbell game is going to be tough. And then after that, it's just conference play. But I look at that Campbell game. I look at that Elon. I look at North Carolina. And I just look at the idea of having to start the season off, finding who your team is against an Alabama State team who's supposed to be pretty good this year. For me, that is going to be tough. And that's why I have them at the number 3 spot.
All right, and you go into Alcorn for their schedule.
Uh-huh. Let's look at Alcorn. UAB, money game. That's going to be tough, having to go over to Birmingham. Vanderbilt, that's going to be tough. Once again, for the eyes of the FBS fans, Vanderbilt is a nobody.
Yeah.
Right? But in the eyes of FCS, particularly HBCU, that is a hard game, having to go on the road back-to-back to Birmingham and then go to Nashville, Tennessee. Edward Waters is going to be okay. Having to go on the road to McNeese State. This is not the McNeese State of the past, but this McNeese State has brought in, this team has brought in 50 transfers, and they have a quarterback in Clifton McDowell who played for Montana last year, who won 10 straight games when he was named the starter and took Montana to the FCS National Championship. There's something having to turn the table that they want to in McNeese, who's been a perennial power in the FCS level. Then you look at, you got Valley, okay. You got Pine Bluff at home. Got to go on the road to Grambling. Regardless of what people think of Grambling, the Hole is a tough place to go. You got to go on the road to Southern. It'll be Southern's homecoming.
Duh.
Whatever the case may be, then you got Alabama State at home.
I'm surprised Southern scheduled a real team for homecoming. Usually that's where y'all like to do your Virginia Lynchburgs, your Lincolns. We know y'all like to just have y'all usually don't care about the football game as people go. Y'all just want
We'll get to that later down the line, but something tells me that was a lot more personal this year than what we've seen in the past with why Alcorn was
Makes
to be
sense.
put in that position.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
No, makes
But if
sense.
you just see from this schedule, man, for me, that's a tough schedule for an all-corn team. And people can make light of it, but let me see where your team is at when you put into that predicament of having to go to UAB, Vanderbilt, then go on the road to McNeese, and then get into conference schedule. So that's why I got all-corn where they at the 3 spot.
Got you. All right. Let's get into. No, you got him at the 4 spot. You had NCC
Excuse
at
me,
the
the
3
4th
spot.
spot, I'm sorry. And
And
then
last
last
but
but
not
not least is going to
least,
be UAPB,
got you.
the Golden Lions. Look at that first game. Arkansas. To start Arkansas to start the season off. Then you have to take on Tennessee State over the Southern Heritage Classic, which Tennessee State got past them last year. We'll see what Eddie George and the Tigers have up their sleeves for the Golden Lions. And then look at Central Arkansas, a top 25 FCS team. And I've done my studies on Central Arkansas. They are a potential candidate for an FCS national championship bid this year. So that's a tough team within the state of Arkansas that they're going to have to go against. And the first time in a long time, UCA will be going to Pine Bluff. To me, that is a tough game of the only 2 FCS teams in the state of Arkansas. Then having to go on the road to Alcorn. You get Prairie View at home as we continue to scroll. Then you go on the road to Grambling. You got to go on the road to Jackson State. Grambling, Jackson State. Then you got to go on the road to Southern. Now, in the past, the name sold itself, but we've just seen where UAPB has been in recent years and how tough it's been for them to get wins. They didn't get a win in conference until the last game of the year against Texas Southern on the road. So I just think that's tough with UCA, University of Arkansas, the 2 Arkansas schools who are good in the state of Arkansas, and then having to go on the road to Southern and Grambling. For me, that is going to be tough for them. So that's why I have my top 5. You put it up, everybody get a chance to see why I have my 1 through 5. UAPB number 5 with the toughest schedule, 5th toughest schedule. Alcorn number 4, North Carolina Central number 3, FAMU number 2, and Mississippi Valley, unfortunately, trying to change a culture. I just think that's tough having to go on the road with the games that they have throughout the month of September to be able to get them on the right foot.